Hey, what is going on, Humor and Hope family? It has been way too long, and I apologize for that. But I'm coming at you with another encouraging word today. I'm your man, Seth Hogan. That's me. Always has been, always will be. I'm titling this one, What Do I Do Now? Coming at you from the book of Nehemiah. So if you got your Bible, turn to the book of Nehemiah. Chapter 1, verse 11, we'll be starting there. But hey, before I get started, I just want to say, hey, don't lose your hope and faith in God, okay? I've seen so much on social media lately. People are becoming angry, they're confused, they're frustrated, they don't know what to do, they're full of fear, dread, even grief. Get your eyes off of everything that's going on, the media, whatever else out there that's causing confusion, division. Put your eyes back on Jesus where they belong. Don't look to the left or to the right, but trust in God and have hope in Him and Him alone. Okay? I believe that, there's still a lot of things to be revealed, and just need to be patient and wait upon the Lord. But in the meantime, that's why I want to talk to you guys. Well, what do I do now? Because a lot of people are freaking out. But my main point is, what has God called you to do? That's what I'm telling you to do. Get back to what God has called you to do. Right here in this moment in your life, what has God called you to do? How can you make a difference? Get your eyes off of everything else that's around you that's causing all that confusion and chaos. And put your eyes back on Jesus where they belong. So I want to talk to you today about Nehemiah. So Nehemiah was a cupbearer for the Persian king. And he actually went back from exile. The Jews were in exile at this moment over the Persian Empire. That's where they were at. He went back to rebuild the walls of Jerusalem. And I'm going to pick up in chapter 1, verse 11. Here we go. O Lord, I pray, please let your ear be attentive to the prayer of your servant and to the prayer of your servants who desire to fear your name. And let your servant prosper this day, I pray, and grant him mercy in the sight of this man, for I was the king's cupbearer. So he heard about what was going on in Jerusalem. The wall's been torn down. The city was in shambles pretty much. And he prayed and fasted before the Lord. And he was the cupbearer. So now in chapter 2, verse 1, listen to this. And it came to pass in the month of Nisan, in the 20th year of King Artaxerxes, when wine was before him, that I took the wine and gave it to the king. Now I had never been sad in his presence before. You can never be sad in the presence of the king when you're a cupbearer, because they pretty much kill you or execute you right there. You always had to have a smile on your face, be cheerful, and you couldn't be that way in front of the king. Watch this, verse 2. Therefore the king said to me, why is your face sad, since you are not sick? This is nothing but sorrow of heart. So I became dreadfully afraid. Why? Because he probably thought he was about to die. Verse 3, and said to the king, may the king live forever. Why should my face not be sad when the city, the place of my father's tombs, lie waste, and its gates are burned with fire? Verse 4, then the king said to me, what do you request? And look at what happens next. So I prayed to the God of heaven. Now, before anything else, look at that. The king asked him, what do you request? He knows he has favor right here, because the king asked, what do you request? Before he said anything, he prayed. He prayed to God. If you're in any situation right now, James 1:5, I believe it is, says, ask of God who gives wisdom. Ask him and he will give you wisdom. So ask God. If you need wisdom today, ask God for wisdom. Before any situation, big or small, it says, so I prayed to the God of heaven. Before he opened his mouth, I think a lot of us can do this more often, ask the Lord what we should do or ask or say in a certain situation before we just blab stuff out of our mouth, okay? So that's a big one that I want to show you guys. So right here, it says, so I prayed to the God of heaven. I said to the king, if it pleases the king, and if your servant has found favor in your sight, I ask that you send me to Judah, to the city of my father's tombs, that I may rebuild it. And go down to verse 8, and the king granted them to me according to the good hand of my God upon me. So he gave him favor, and he granted him this request to go back and build the walls of Jerusalem. So now he knew the hand of the Lord was upon him. And he gets back there, and he's checking out the walls in Jerusalem. So I rose in the night, and a few men with me. I told no one what my God had put in my heart to do at Jerusalem. Now stop right there again. He told no one yet what God put in his heart to do. Because sometimes when God puts something on your heart and you go and tell people, they're not going to understand it, or they're going to discourage you and say, who do you think you are? God told you to do that? You can't do that. There's no way God told you to do that. You're not capable. Look at you. I mean, there's no way that God told you to do that. Stop being so crazy. So my big thing is, if God's put something in your heart, continue to pray about it. Seek those that you know that maybe you can trust, but ask God for confirmations that this is truly what he wants you to do. And you can see that Nehemiah got favor from the king, and that he knew that this was like go time. So he's on it. So keep things in your heart before, releasing them, because other people might not understand what God wants to do in your life. So that's one of my advice for you today. And he ends up telling the priest and some of the others that were with him. Now he knows. And I told them of the hand of God, which had been good upon me, and also the king's word that he had spoken to me. So they said, let us rise up and build. Then they set their hands to this good work. So when the time was right, he eventually told people, he told them the favor he had with the king, how he got favor to go through the different cities back to Jerusalem to build the wall. And when the time came, he told the right people, and then they set their hands to this good work. He rounded a group of people up, and they knew God was with them, so they set out to rebuild the walls. Listen to this, verse 19. But when Sanballat the Horonite and Tobiah the Ammonite official and Geshem, I don't know if I'm saying those names right, the Arab, heard of it, they laughed at us and despised us and said, what is this thing that you are doing? Will you rebel against the king? See, there's always going to be people out there who are going to just try and discourage you from what God's called you to do. It doesn't matter what it is, or your task, but that's the main thing today. What has God called you to do? Get back to what God has called you to do at this time, this moment in your life, and just leave the rest up to him. Have faith and trust that in his time, in his good time, that everything will be revealed that needs to be revealed. All right, but in the meantime, wait upon him, do what you're called to do, but always know that there's going to be people out there who are going to try and discourage you, depress you, probably spit on you. Maybe nowadays, make fun of you, beat you up. It could happen, all because what God's called you to do. But know this: no one can stop you from doing what God's called you to do, but you and you alone. All right. So don't get caught up in any fear that they might be trying to say over your life, or cause you to fear, become dreadful, cause you to panic, lose hope. Keep your faith and your focus and your eyes upon Jesus. Because it says in here, after this, their plot or whatever, so we built the wall, and the entire wall was joined together up to half its height, for the people had a mind to work. Now it happened when Sanballat, Tobiah, and the Arabs, the Ammonites and the Ashdodites heard that the walls of Jerusalem were being restored and the gaps were beginning to be closed, that they became very angry. And all of them conspired together to come and attack Jerusalem and create confusion. See, there's an enemy out there who doesn't want you to fulfill the call of God in your life, and he's going to do whatever he can to divert you from fulfilling that call, because there's so many people's lives that will be affected from what the call of God on your life. I truly believe that. Wherever you work, it doesn't have to be behind a pulpit. It can be right at your work. That people might just need to hear an encouraging word, that they need to know that they're loved and they're cherished by Jesus. All right, so wherever it's at, people will try and discourage you, but don't lose hope. Keep your eyes on Jesus, because if God is for you, nobody can be against you. All right, only you can stop what God's called you to do. So they heard about this, them trying to conspire. So they pretty much, as time goes on, they had a sword in their hand and their building tool in the other, and they kept watch and they kept building because they knew God was with them and they were ready to fight at any time. But then chapter 6, they tried to conspire against them too, and this is the Sanballat, chapter 6, verse 2. Sanballat and Geshem sent to me, saying, come, let us meet together among the villages in the plain of Uno. But they thought to do me harm. So I sent messengers to them, saying, I'm doing a great work, so I cannot come down. Why should the work cease while I leave it and go down to you? See, so they tried doing this over and over again. They tried to stop them and say, hey, well, let's come down and talk. But Nehemiah knew they were up to no good. They were going to try and stop him, probably beat him up. But he was like, no, I have no time for your nonsense. So that's what I tell you today to encourage you. Don't have time for other people's nonsense. The naysayers out there, the people saying that you can't do this, you can't do that because you don't have this talent or that. Like, God will give you the grace to fulfill the call of God in your life. All right? It doesn't matter what you can or cannot do. Like, naturally, like, God will give you the supernatural ability to fulfill the call of God on your life. I'm going to keep pointing my finger because it's very important. But in all honesty, like, people will keep trying to discourage you, trying to get him to come down, but he wasn't going to stop because he knew that that's what God called him to do. So that's my encouraging word for you guys today is, what do you do now? You go back to what God was calling you to do before all this goes out, before maybe you are still confused or be fearful. Like, go before the Lord, ask him to forgive you for not having faith and hope in him, and go back and start off fresh with what God's called you to do and fulfill the call of God in your life. Have faith in God that he will work out all the other crap that's going on right now, and that, all the evil and corruption that is going on, that will be exposed in his timing and his alone, right? Don't put any dates on it. God's in control, and believe the best, right? God is sovereign, and we keep praying and believing that, asking him to expose everything, corruption, greed, all the evil. Like, believe that's going to happen. He's a good and righteous God, all right? So that's my word for today, guys, to encourage you is, what do you do now? Go back to what you were doing before. Keep your eyes on Jesus. Don't let anyone stop you from what God's called you to do. And they rebuilt the wall in 52 days. All right? They had unity. People were coming together because they were in one mind, the mind of Christ. Yeah, they knew their purpose and what God called them to do in that season of life. So figure out what God's calling you to do right now. Ask him, pray about it, and then go do it. All right? So keep your faith, your hope in Jesus and him alone. And that's my word for you guys today. All right, this one ran a little long, but hope you enjoyed it. This has been another episode of Humor and Hope, where the humor's free and the hope's eternal. Peace.